guys, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be creating this awesome little jar topper for flowers. Keeps them nice and separated, also known as a jar frog. So you can see I'm starting out here by flattening the clay. First of all, a note about the clay you use. It's really important to use good clay that's going to end up baking up well, and Sculpey Primo is my absolute favorite for that. So that's what I'm using. We're flattening it just enough to fit into the clay press, to flatten it out, to create an even surface. So I'm going to run it through my clay press at the thickest setting. As you can see, that's what I've done here. And then I'm going to take a rubber stamp, and you can use any shape, any pattern that you want to do this. You can use a texturizer, you can use whatever tickles your fancy to create whatever impression you want on the clay. I liked this cute little flower, so that's what I'm using. Now you can see I folded the clay over, and it made a little bubble. That was my bad, but you can see as the video goes that I was able to just smooth that bubble out the side. Now, like I was saying about the type of clay you use, I've used a lot of different clays over the last couple years, and Sculpey Primo, hands down, is my absolute favorite for almost every single thing I do. It bakes up really flexible if you follow the baking instructions. It doesn't get fingerprints on it as much. It's a lot more forgiving. So absolutely my favorite clay so far, especially for projects like this where you want them to be very durable. They might get some extra heavy use. Now we're going to take a wide mouth jar lid is what I'm using here. That's bigger than the narrow mouth, something slightly bigger than the top of the jar you're going to have, and we're going to use that to cut the top. Now the edges don't have to be absolutely perfect, because you can come back, as you'll see that I do, with an X-Acto knife and finish cutting out the shape. And I've sped a lot of this video up for you guys, so it's not super boring. All right, so now you're going to have that circle of clay to work with. There's your shape. But before you rest it on top of the jar, you're going to take two different size cutters. They can be any shape. I'm using circles. You could use hearts or stars or flowers or whatever you want, to punch holes for where the stems are going to go. So try to make them fairly even. But again, this design is flexible for wherever you want those little flowers to go, wherever your little floral accent's going to be. I kind of just did it in the center, fairly evenly spaced. Now I'm going to take my jar, and this is actually what I'm going to bake it on, so make sure it's oven proof. Rest it on the top there, center it, and then it took me a second there. You're going to shape the edges, because they're going to be kind of an organic edge, which is okay. Like, you kind of want this little bit organic, rustic farmhouse look on these that kind of makes them look neat. So just kind of even that out, and then we're going to run another piece of clay through the machine. So the petals that we cut for our flowers are going to be all consistent in thickness and shape. This cutter here is about the size of a quarter, I would say. And you're going to need 6 circles for the petals. I cut extra often because sometimes things happen and I make mistakes and I need another one, and then I've put everything away, and it's easier to cut extra. So I cut myself 1 extra there. And little trick there, if your clay is stuck to your surface, just use your cutting knife there to pop them off the bottom. Otherwise, you're risking the chance of ruining the shape of whatever it is you just cut. All right, so now this is a fondant mat. Now you can get these anywhere pretty much, Amazon. I think I got this one on Temu, but a fondant mat is where you're going to shape your flowers. Now, a fondant mat is life-changing if you make anything floral with clay, because the clay won't stick to the surface of the mat. And so it makes it really easy to shape those petals using your tools. And I'm using a large steel ball to create that flat kind of cup shape. And then I'm going to flatten it out, use my fingers to create more of an organic petal shape. I want this one to look real natural. And always straighten the edges, smooth the edges before you use your tool, before you put it, because I've had like little pieces on the edges if I'm not careful after I've cut, which I've overlooked a couple times. And so now I know to smooth it all out. Now I'm going to use a silicone texturizer. It's just a little piece of silicone with some veins on there that make it look like the petal has a veiny texture. Adds to the realism of it. And these are, again, really cheap. You can find these on Amazon, on Temu. Eventually I'm going to put the link in the comments for you for some of my tools when I get those. So keep an eye out for that. So I'm going to finish texturizing these petals here. And it's kind of amazing the subtlety, because they make a lot of different types of these, and even just the smallest subtlety in the imprint can change the look of your petals, your leaves. It's kind of a fun tool to have. All right, so now we have our petals and we're going to assemble them in the corner of the jar. So always adhere your florals with liquid clay, with some translucent liquid clay. It's basically the glue that's going to keep it on there, keep it secure. And then one extra step to secure that on there is to take a tool and then press down firmly. I kind of smush it a little bit so the two pieces of clay will adhere together, and that creates even more security while baking it. It all bakes together and those flowers aren't going to come off. All right, so I'm going to speed up the video here and you can watch me assemble the rest of it. I put them in sets of three. So your first three in a spiral, in an even spiral, and then the next three petals in between those little V shape openings in between the other petals. So it looks like a nice natural floral spiral there. And now you're gonna take another tool, possibly a little bit wider this time, and press them all together in the center. Again, that really secures it on there. And then you're going to reshape the flower. Kind of lift up the edges, give it a little bit of a curl. And again, you can, if you already are making clay flowers, if you know how to make clay flowers, you can do any design on the top of these lids. Just have fun with it. All right, now I'm going to add some leaves for a little bit of dimension. And my apologies that my camera did not focus on what I was doing there. It wasn't worth recording the entire video again. All right, so now I'm going to take just little pieces. You can, they don't have to be completely the same size, because leaves on a plant usually are never all exactly the same size. So it gives it a bit more of a natural look when you create your leaves. And I'm sorry, I was a little off camera there. But I'm making little triangle teardrop shapes with the clay. And you can see the end result of that. And then I use my little metal poker tool. I have such official names for all these things. And then place the leaves just wherever you think look aesthetically pleasing. I kept changing my mind as I was working. So I have a few leaves of various shapes and sizes, just kind of tucking in there. What a love-hate relationship. What I love, but also what can be challenging about clay flowers and clay projects is they're all different. I put a little piece under there to elevate that leaf. But they're all so different that, you know, it's the challenges are different, the layouts are different. Each, just the slightest bit of texture change in a piece of clay can create new challenges. And so it's the variety is fun, but it can be challenging at times. So I'm going to keep making a few different sizes there for some more leaves. Now another little trick I've learned over time is if you've got really sticky clay, which again, that depends on the brand you buy. If you buy high quality clay, it shouldn't be too sticky, but sometimes it's just sticky. Like if you get a translucent clay, they just tend to be stickier. But if you have just a little cup full of cornstarch, keep that nearby. You can coat your fingers with it and it helps keep it from sticking. And then it can just rinse off after you've baked your clay. It doesn't affect, as long as you just use a real light touch and a light amount, it doesn't affect the end result. You can just wipe it off after it's done baking. All right, so I'm on my last few leaves here. Little finishing touches. Now I bend the leaves a little bit at the ends. Changed my mind. Just creates a little bit more of a natural look. And so, but that's where your fingers can sometimes stick to it. Like especially if your hands get hot, if you get nervous or sweaty as you're working, so that cornstarch can come in handy sometimes. So just finish shaping those leaves, and then I'm a perfectionist, so I'm obsessing over it here. All right, so now we have it on the top of the jar. It's baked. Yay. Oh wait, no, it's not baked. I'm getting ready to bake it. This is what I get for not doing my voiceover as I work. All right, so what I'm doing is putting a little stainless steel cutter under there, which is totally bakeable. It's not going to hurt when you bake it. And I wanted that leaf just a little bit elevated, and you'll see why in the final pictures. I wanted kind of an angle there. All right, so now it's baked and ready to just rest on top of the jar. It bakes in the shape of the top of the jar, and so this is really great to do with canning jars because they're all consistent sizes. You either have small mouth or wide mouth, and you can make the sizes accordingly. And as you can see, it's a little bit flexible, very durable, adhered on there really good. So the final step to finishing the clay before I put my little embellishment on is sanding it. So I don't buy the expensive sandpaper that's specific to clay. I just buy 1,000 grit sandpaper and it works just fine. So create a nice smooth edge. I'm going to cut some of this video out here because it was a lot of sanding, boring sanding. My least favorite part. I endure the sanding to get to the final result. And sometimes if it's too much sanding, if you have too uneven of an edge, you can use an X-Acto knife, as I'm doing, to reshape it. All right, now I'm going to put my little sparkly on, and JB Weld glue is the very best I've used. I've used a lot, like when trying to, glue the earring studs to the clay, and I've had good and bad experiences, mostly bad until I started using JB Weld, and it holds up better than any glue I've used. So just be generous in the amount that you put on there, and it sets pretty fast. Now I'm going to go around the edges with a gold calligraphy pen, and this is an oil-based paint. And I think that gold edge just gives it the final touch of a real classy look. Anytime you have an edge that just looks a little unsightly, just go over it with a gold pen and you'll be surprised at how much better it makes it look. Okay, so I'm just going to carefully finish up this edge. And what I love about it is it kind of highlights that scalloped look. So here we go. Final product. You can put flowers, stems, herbs, whatever you want for a beautiful farmhouse look. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more free content like this, and be sure to comment and tell me you subscribed so I can welcome you to my art therapy community. Now go make something beautiful.